in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic, and today's topic is role of youth in rural development. The soul of India lives in its villages, said Mahatma Gandhi. Tell the scientists and technologists should work in appropriate regions, specifically the rural technologies, to transform Indian rural sector, said Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Rural life is a real life. Urban life is carbon life. Rural development is the process of improving the quality of life and economic well-being of people living in rural areas, often relatively isolated and sparsely populated areas. Rural development has traditionally centered on the exploitation of land-intensive natural resources such as agriculture and forestry. However, changes in global production networks and increased urbanization have changed the character of rural areas. Increasingly, tourism, niche manufactures, and recreation have replaced resource extractions and agriculture as dominant economic drivers. The need for rural communities to approach development from a wider perspective has created more focus on a broad range of development goals rather than merely creating incentives for agriculture or resource-based businesses. Education, entrepreneurships, physical infrastructures, and social infrastructure all play an important role in developing rural regions. Rural development is also characterized by its emphasis on locally produced economic development strategies. In contrast to urban regions, which have many similarities, rural areas are highly distinctive from one another. India is predominantly a rural country with 2/3 population and 75% workforce residing in rural areas. Rural economic constraints 46% of national income. Thus, growth and development of rural economy and population are a key to overall growth and inclusive development of India. Traditionally, agriculture is the prime sector of rural economy and rural employment. Due to lockdown, export was shut down, jobs were cut, and supply chain delays are the key concerns affecting rural markets. But now, as unlocking is taking place, the chances of revival of rural economy is better than the urban economy. Biggest irony of today's youth living in cities prefer for outing in rural area, and youth of rural area dreams to visit big cities. When educating the minds of our youth, we must not forget to educate their hearts. And to discuss this very important topic, role of youth in rural development, I would like to invite and introduce my chief guest of today's program, and he is Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik. Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik is a strong visionary, multidisciplinary management professional with over 3 decades of rich and varied experience across government departments and public sector enterprises of India. He belongs to the 1989 batch of Indian Railways Account Services. Dr. Patnaik completed his master's in applied geology from Indian Institute of Technology, IIT, ISM in 1985. He did master's in public management from Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore in 2015. He did doctor in philosophy, PhD in management from Birla Institute of Technology, Mesra, Ranchi in 2019. Apart from holding key positions in Indian Railways from 1989 to 2013, Dr. Patnaik has the distinction of holding key management positions in the state and central public sector enterprises for nearly a decade, both on deputation and on absorption. After taking voluntary retirement from Indian Railways in 2013, Dr. Patnaik joined Heavy Engineering Corporation as Director Finance from 2013 to 2017, and then as Managing Director of Indian Railway Finance Corporation from 2017 to 2018. For his exemplary work in office automation and computerization, Dr. Patnaik was decorated with the prestigious Railway Minister's Award in 1999. In his last assignment as MD IRFC in 2017, Dr. Patnaik achieved an unique milestone by taking the lead to raise $500 million for the Indian Railways at a competitive price through issue of climate bonds, certified green bonds in the overseas market, which incidentally is the first of its kind for the railway transportation sector in an emerging economy like India. Right now, he is pursuing his own ideas and passion for institution building and academics. And can add on this that he is all for rural development. He takes it as a challenge, and he wants to see that the rural development should take place in India. I invite and welcome Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik. Dr. Patnaik, you being the champion for the rural development, and you are doing so much work for the rural development. Today, we are in the fag end of our 2020, and at this juncture, definitely now, because now unlocking is going on, and now the main emphasis on rural India, because we have seen during the pandemic that the rural economy or rural support was very much helpful to overcome this pandemic, because all the urban areas were more infected and they were almost shut down, and that's why all the migrants problem started. But the rural people have supported with the supply of all the food grains as well as the vegetables and fruits. So all the citizens of the country could survive during this last 9-10 difficult months. Now, we would like to know from you the role of youth in rural development. Dr. S.K. Patnaik, please. Please unmute. Dr. Patnaik, please unmute yourself.
Good morning, everyone, in today's media conference with Mr. Lal Goel. In fact, I would like to compliment him at the outset. Mr. Goel has done an extraordinary job in organizing this media conference from 22nd March onwards, and some sort of unique achievement for a person like Mr. Goel, who didn't have any media background. Still, he could make it to a media platform. And it's unbelievable that Mr. Goel is organizing this conference non-stop on a day-to-day basis. And this has really caught up the attention of the whole country. And even abroad, a lot of people are evincing a lot of interest for this media conference. So let me first thank Mr. Goel for inviting me for another media conference today. Maybe I'm attending it after a gap of a couple of months or so, but I'm always delighted to come and join this media conference. And this particular media conference is unique in the sense the youth are being roped in to participate in the discussion. And I'm very glad to see that 7 of you, all youngsters, loaded ideas, and you are participating in this conference. And it's really a privilege for me to interact with you on this platform. Now, this topic chosen for today's media conference is the role of youth for the rural development in the context of course, in the context of our country, India. Now, Mr. Goel has given a brief background why rural development is key to India's growth and success. See, it reminds me of the Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, who has always advocated for the village development. and often used to say, the real India lies in the 7 lakh plus villages. And if Indian civilization is to make its full contribution to the building of the stable order, it is this vast humanity of India's populace who can make a difference, staying mostly in the rural areas. Now, having said that, I'll always emphasize that the real wealth of our nation is concentrated in our villages. And the real growth of India can happen only when there is all-round development of villages. Therefore, creating the wealth in the hands of the villagers is essentially required to stimulate the country's economic growth. And in my own assessment, if India has to make strides to be a developed nation with equitable growth, rural development needs to be the clarion call, not only for the government, but also for the responsible citizens of this great nation. Now let me come to why we require the rural development at this stage. Now, if you look at the history of our country, ever since the independence, we embarked on a socialistic pattern of growth under the first prime ministership of Jawaharlal Nehru. A lot of things happened, a lot of public sector enterprises in the name of the temple of growth, temple of the nation, they were proliferated in the country. And it almost continued for all 4 decades till the end of 1980s when we have gone for the market-based economy. Now, what has happened in the due course that we have, in the name of the market-developed economy, we have shifted our focus from the rural growth to the urban-centric growth. It has been done consciously or unconsciously, because the market force, when it is allowed to determine the growth of a country, the economic growth of a country, nothing comes in our hand unless until we put our own conscience into the right direction. And that is exactly when the urban-centric growth started. Believe it or not, it took only just 2 decades for the successive governments to shift their focus from the rural-centric growth to the urban-centric growth. Even though there was a lot many schemes and policies which was focused on the rural-centric growth, the urban-centric growth or the urban-centric economic growth got a lot of priority. Now, what has happened? In the 2010 onwards, the census has totally changed. The rural population growth, which was happening at a incremental stride, it shifted its focus to the urban-centric growth, and the population in the urban areas multiplied. And the strange reason for that is the rural masses started migrating to the urban centers. It's basically for a living livelihood, because there are not much of scope in the rural areas to earn their livelihood. So most of the youth, particularly the youth, they started migrating to the urban areas in the hope of getting better livelihood. And that is where you see the 21st, from the beginning of the 21st century till 2020, almost like 2 decades, we unknowingly got into the trap of urban-centric growth. And suddenly when a pandemic like COVID had come into the forefront, everyone, including the government, they got up from the slumber and say, hey, we are going in the wrong direction. We have neglected our rural-centric growth, and instead we are focusing more on the urban-centric growth. So that's not the right thing to do at this stage. Now, by this time, every one of you, particularly the youngsters, they must have realized how it is important to focus our growth, India's growth, on the rural centers. As Mr. Lal Goel rightly say, it is the heartthrob of the country. So if we start neglecting the rural-centric growth, the type of vision India has, like if you remember our late Abdul Kalam, the ex-president of India, he always visioned by 2020, India should be a developed nation. well, we could make several progresses in several areas, but still we are to achieve the status of a developed nation on date. Now, time has come, my dear friends, to take our villages to the global level and showcase their resources, the talented people, the undiluted culture, the rich heritage, and above all, the legacy of the past in the lap of the present. It can be made possible. There are several ways which can be made possible. We have to think out of the box. Government is trying to do its bit after the COVID. Most of the schemes which have now come are rural centric. Now, we cannot just leave everything for the government to do and see how the things are getting changed. Now it is for the youth of the nation. I mean to say that all of you who should come to the forefront and take the lead, take the leadership role, how to channelize the real resources of India, which are mostly concentrated in our rural areas, be it the manpower resources, be it the agricultural resources, be it the talent resources, as I have told you. Now, it can be made possible in today's scenario by making provision of urban amenities in the rural areas. It's a concept called Pura. No other than our ex-president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, has coined this term Pura, a strategy for rural development that was conceived and passionately advocated by Dr. Kalam. You must have known about the concept very well. Now, government is equally focusing in bringing the urban amenities to the rural area. It is high time that if we are not going for the equitable growth in the rural area, vis-a-vis the urban-centric growth, the things will not come to, to a way that India can think of becoming a developed nation. Now, let me come to the role of the youth at this stage. Now, India tops the list of nations with almost like 35.6 crore people, 356 million people, as the world's largest youth population. And it is rightly being said that India is a nation of youth. Youth constitutes approximately 35% of the India's population. At the same time, let's also take another statistics. Nearly 72% of Indian population lives in the rural areas. It means 12% of the world population lives in Indian villages, which makes it bigger than the size of Europe. Now, what's the problem then? If we are having so much of youth power with us, why we are not able to go closer to our goal to become a developed nation? But the problem is that the youth resources are not being properly channelized. We should not have start playing a blame game here. We cannot make the government responsible for that, or for that matters, the capitalistic model of economic growth. No, everything is in its own place. Now, each one of us has to take the mantle and try to find out the cause of this problem. Indian youths are at the crossroads. Why? A lot of Indian youth, even if they are educated properly, they are looking for employment. And it's very surprising that having such a talented, having such a youth, so much of youth resources, the industries are suffering from availability of skilled laborers, skilled workers. The skill mismatch makes the youth unemployable. And it is astonishing that despite having a high literacy rate and educational level, both at the urban and the rural areas, 89% of the youth of the total population are not properly trained on the vocational jobs. And that is one of the prime reasons why India is suffering a lot in channelizing the youth resources. Abdul Kalam, the APJ Abdul Kalam, once exclaimed youth without relevant skills and knowledge can actually derail the economy and create more trouble for the country. Is it not prophetic? That's not exactly what is happening in our country right now. You have a large youth power in our country, but since the resources and the skill levels are not up to the mark, and there is a high level of unemployment still existing in our country. And because of COVID, the things have multiplied more. Why? There's a reverse migration. A lot of people who are there in the urban areas, because of the pandemic, they have gone back to their villages. And it is said that most of them are still preferring not to go back to their urban workplaces. But then it's a catch-22 situation right now. Unless until the rural infrastructures are built to the level that we were expecting, what will happen to those youth, though particularly the migrated labor who has come back to the thing? There will be more of chaos. There will be more of chaos in the rural areas. So that's the reason why I say it's a clarion call for the youth of the nation to come out with some innovative and creative ideas how to empower the the village people, particularly the rural youth. I always feel the urban youth are a lot more privileged than the rural youth. You have got access to better education. You have got access to better infrastructure. You have got access to better resources. And there is no surprising a fact that you will not excel in your studies and go into a better living condition. But what about the youth in the rural area? Even if they are equally talented, but they are not able to express their talents because they don't have proper infrastructure, be it education, be it skill development, or be it anywhere. They don't get the ample opportunity to show their talents. Some of them who really excel with some sort of blessing from some godfathers, they can make it to the urban centers and do it. But that number is very, very less. Most of the rural youth, they suffer from appropriate education. And if the education is there, they are not properly skilled. And that's the reason the whole country is now looking forward to empower the rural youth. And it's a prime role for the urban youth to take that lead. I happened to see one particular quote by Jacqueline Novogratz. She's an American entrepreneur and author, founder and CEO of Acumen, a non-profit global venture capital fund whose goal is to use entrepreneurial approach to address the global poverty. You know what is his observation? And it is very, very encouraging for youth like you and for the country as a whole. She has said, in India, we now see many highly qualified professionals ready to work in the rural hinterland and in their own towns and cities to tackle development issues directly without depending much on the government. So I think this is, with this quote, a real motivational thing for the urban youth. I'm looking forward to each one of you to express your own opinion, how to bring some out-of-box changes in the rural development. There are many things which are happening around. A lot of youth are coming back from abroad and they are getting assimilated with the rural population to do many developmental works. But now it's time that each one of us, particularly the youth population, which constitute the majority of the nation, they should come up with some real path-breaking ideas to make changes in the agricultural programs, in the health programs for human and non-humans, for the community development programs, for the human resource development programs, and trade and industrial promotion. And finally, because we are all living in the information age, and you guys, the youth, are so much empowered that your information, the information you have in hand with the digital network, you can do real marvels to bring the cataclysmic changes in the rural development. I'd like to listen to each one of you, and finally, when I come back, I'll try to summarize the whole thing and try to give my own ideas. I'll just try to integrate my own whole ideas, how to go for the real development in the rural areas of India. Thank you very much, Mr. Goel.
Thank you very much, Dr. Patnaik. And as Dr. Patnaik has mentioned, that post-independence era, the government of India decided under the leadership of Pandit Nehru to go for a massive industrialization, because the question of economy was there, and the country was in a not a safe, in not having a good reserves at that time. And that's why lots of industrialization took place for 4 decades. And in that, what happened because of the industrialization, it was basically taken place in the urban area more than the rural area, and it has become an urban-centric development. And the rural development could not take place. But after the liberation in 1991 era, post this thing, the policymakers or the government wanted to start doing the development of the rural. They have come out with lots of schemes for the development of the rural area, but still it could not be implemented due to many factors. But according to our chief guest, Dr. S.K. Patnaik, until unless we will not develop the rural area, the Indian economy cannot be getting the real fruits which they are supposed to get, because of the population, because of the youth centric, which is definitely more in rural area. But he also said that the problem here is that the infrastructure, the other facilities, what urban youth is enjoying, the rural youth is not getting. And he has mentioned Mahatma Gandhi has mentioned that the real India is in the rural area. And he has also mentioned our ex-president, Dr. Kalam. And he says that he has come out with a concept of Pura, that is providing urban amenities to rural areas. Now, just think that if those amenities which urbanites are enjoying, if they will go to a rural area, definitely the rural development can take place. And it is only possible if youth take the leads. So according to Dr. Patnaik, if the youth of India, which are, although the figures which Dr. Patnaik has given is different, because all countries have different figures for the youth age. In India, generally, they are considering up to 45 years. If we take up to 45 years of age, the youth population is 65% in India. Although many countries take up 25, some takes 30, some takes 35%. But in India, generally they take 45%. If it is like this, and we are the youngest country in the world, with a young, all young generation is more young population than the senior citizens. So when youth is having 65% population, definitely the key role is with the youth. If they want to change, they can change anything. Thank you very much, Dr. Patnaik, for giving your such encouraging opening remarks. I am sure after listening to our youths, your concluding remark will be more inspirational and a guiding force for all of them, so that they can come in the streamline. They will try to bring the youths of rural in the streamline, so we can proudly say that India can be a global leader in future soon. Thank you very much, Dr. Patnaik, for giving your views. Now I would like to invite my first youth guest, and she is Miss Akriti Khanna. Miss Akriti Khanna is interned with Indo-Gulf Marketing Association at Noida. Miss Akriti Khanna, just unmute yourself.
Yes.
Miss Akriti Khanna, you have heard what our chief guest has mentioned, and he has put the ball in the court of youth. Youth means you all. So now we would like to know your views on the role of youth in rural development. Miss Akriti Khanna, please.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I would like to start my speech. I took it upon myself to paint a better picture of rural India and what it is all about. We need smart villages, not smart cities. Good morning, all. Today, I, Akriti Khanna, part of Intergulf Marketing Association, and as an intern with Dr. Mohan, will like to express my views on the role of youth in rural development. Over the next few minutes, I am going to try to inspire youth to do something slightly different, inspire youth to connect to their own country, perhaps inspire you all to go out and make a change, which is really needed, which may even help us to transform our own lives. It is a well known fact that the youth of any country is a great asset. They represent the most dynamic segment of population. Their actions and inactions both contribute to the development of a nation like India. They have the potential to learn and adapt to the environment. They have the capabilities to bring social reforms and improvements in the society. We know that even today, two-thirds of the total population lives in rural India and still depend upon agriculture.
Uh, one moment, please. I think some disturbance is coming. Uh, some disturbance has come, Miss Akrati, I think from your side.
Sir,
Please.
wasn't I audible?
Yeah, now you are audible. Some disturbance is coming. Please see to it. No disturbance should come. Okay,
Yes,
please
sir,
go ahead.
sorry.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Even today, two-thirds of the total population lives in rural India and still depend upon agriculture for their livelihood. Rural development is the process of improving the quality of life and economic well-being of people living in rural areas. The youth of the country often do not consider rural growth as a part of larger India's growth story. It means that working for rural India is mostly equated with giving back to the society or charity or a sacrifice of some sort that has been made, not a career choice, not as something that you would do for your own sake. In all these decades since independence, we have not experienced rural progress as expected, which clearly indicates that there is something missing somewhere. Lack of infrastructure, irrigation problems, which lead to huge losses to the farmers in particular, poor health facilities, lack of education and technological knowledge, and gender inequality. There are many pathways to economic engagement for youth in agriculture, and not all of them means getting hands dirty. Youth can be involved in activities that support agriculture, production capacity building, logistics, land reforms, and value additions as service providers and entrepreneurs. Even if we work at one village at a time, we will be able to develop the nation holistically, bring about an integrated development, and make it easier to replicate that work and scale up that work in other villages. But for that, we need to connect the dots, we need to work together, and we need to collaborate. What also distinguishes this new generation of youth is its use of technology, including digital financial services and high level of engagement with information and communication. With the help of digital technology, youth can link rural markets and urban markets through e-commerce platforms, integrate various activities across value chain and create meaningful employment, and link farmers to various government credit schemes. Farming offers young generation a chance to make a difference by growing enough food to feed the world and alleviate malnutrition as well as helping the sector adapt to climate change. As per me, we as youth have to connect to our rural roots to make them stronger and future ready. We have to participate in rural infrastructure development programs, bringing awareness amongst villagers about various government policies for integrated development. To create a momentum in youth to enhance their skills, we need to ensure that every person engages themselves in a productive and a socially useful occupation. We need to understand that the wealth of India actually lies in rural India. And even if we take the GDP, 50% of it comes from rural India, and about 40% of employment comes from agriculture. So the next growth which has to come from rural India because urban areas have got saturated. It has been rightly quoted that the soul of India lives in its villages. And to support the overall vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, Atmanirbhar Bharat, as a youth of future India, I am ready to take this responsibility on my shoulders to transform our rural sector as Atmanirbhar, which will be backward until and unless any spectacular changes takes place. I will support sustainable development, diversification of agricultural activities, and development of required infrastructure. I am excited that I will be able to contribute towards my nation. In the end, I would like to thank Mr. Goel and Dr. Patnaik for providing me this opportunity on such a relevant subject. Special thanks to Dr. Mohan sir for providing me guidance for my holistic development. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Sakriti. And we are happy that you said that you are going to commit yourself for the rural development. The agony of the problem in India is that if youths take it voluntarily, then no one can stop that development. Here, even for the medical doctors, the government has to put a condition or take a bond that if you are going for taking a admission in a government college, you have to serve your internship you have to do in a village or a rural area. But the record says, the data says that many of them, they just want to pay some money, but they do not want to go to the rural area. And that is youth, real youth, because if a student who has just passed the MBBS, if he is not or she is not ready to go to the rural or the village area, who is going to go? Our chief guest has mentioned the lack of medical facilities in rural area. It is because none of you, none of means many of you are not interested to go. They, if like you have mentioned that you are going to do the development and you will make a village Atmanirbhar, if everyone of youth will start thinking like this, then the day is not far. Then when we have to organize a program for the role of youth in urban development, because then our rural development will be more and the urban development will be less. Thank you very much, Ms. Akriti, for giving your views.
Thank you, sir.
And I wish you all the best for your endeavor to make the rural area more developed. Thank you very much. Now I would like to move to my next youth guest, and he is Mr. Anvit G. Kumar. Mr. Anvit G. Kumar is visually challenged. He is currently pursuing second year MA Political Science from Mangalore University at Mangla Gangotri. Mr. Anvit Kumar, you have heard what our chief guest, Dr. Patnaik, has mentioned, and the earliest panelist has mentioned. And the emphasis by the chief guest is that until unless we will not develop the rural area, the real development of our country cannot take place. And the earlier panelist mentioned that she is going to be committed for the rural development. That time will say, will tell us that how much she is going to do. But yes, if this is the spirit, definitely if youths will take, definitely the country will develop. Now, we would like to know from you the role of youth in rural development. Mr. Anvit G. Kumar, please.
Thank you, sir, for providing this opportunity for me. Good morning, all. I am Anvit G. Kumar, pursuing second year MA Political Science from Mangalore University. Today, I am going to share few of my views on the role of youth in the rural development. Once Mahatma Gandhi said that the real progress of India did not mean simply the growth and expansion of industrial urban centers, but mainly the development of villages. This idea of village development has been in the center of overall development of India because 65% of India's population still lives in rural area. So in order to understand the role of youth in rural development, we must know what is rural development is and why it is needed. Rural development refers to the improvement of living condition and also the economic well-being of the people who are living in rural or relatively isolated area. In rural area, there are many areas that has to be focused upon, such as generation of jobs, employment for the people, schools and educational institutions, medical and healthcare services, etc. Youth with his immense ability can solve all these problems. What can a youth offer? First of all, ideas and innovations. Youth should use his innovative, creative, open-minded new ideas to change the economic and social conditions of the rural areas. Secondly, he can come up with his strength and support. He should take up riskful jobs, challenging jobs, and motivate others so that this can be used as the greatest resource for the rural development. Thirdly, his opinion and feedbacks. They can also bring changes in the rural areas by raising their voice and approaching the concerned authorities, or by making changes of their own. How can they offer? As the children of the rural area, they have their real experience and they can act effectively. First of all, first point, I can say that by not migrating to the urban areas, rural area needs youth support, and mainly there are many areas like education, farming, politics, etc. needs their support. Educated foreign returns should stay back in rural areas, and they should try to provide all good quality of education and healthcare services. This is a noble job. Secondly, agricultural innovations. They should take up riskful attempts and come up with new trends of farming. Use of technology and intensive research has to be promoted. And also, they should develop the cottage industries. I mean, they should focus on the development of cottage industry. Third point, I wish to say education. The dropouts of the rural areas should be brought back to the school by the educated youth, and they should spread awareness on the education. Education enables a person to have good livelihood and also helps him in critical thinking. Education uplifts the society, and also it will change the social norms. Fourthly, the fourth important thing is politics. The youth should actively participate in the politics, which will improve the good governance. They should reach out to the villages and give information regarding the policies of the government, and collectively they should strive to improve the problems or improve the village conditions by solving all their problems. Finally, in the politics, the energetic youths can bring main changes. And it's like their energy is very essential in creating new awareness, opportunities, policies, systems, and culture. And that fosters youth engagement. This can also lead to the complete elimination of corruption by its root. Poor education and training, weak social system, inequalities and bias, and perception of immature decision making of youth are some of the obstacles of youth in participation. So finally, I will conclude by saying that youth should focus on rural population, and with their immense ability, they should try to give good, a better service for the rural area. Thank you, sir. Thank you for providing this opportunity for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Anvit, for giving your views. And you being a student of political science yourself, you mentioned about that you should participate in the politics for the good governance. But Mr. Anvit, I always repeat, and again I am repeating in this program, it is not happening. Practically, if we will see in the first parliament of India, which was elected in 1952, there were 26% of the MPs of youth, that is below 45 years. And in the present parliament, only 12% youths are there below 45%. It means the youth are not united, number one. Number two, they are opting for the seniors or the older generation people. They are not having faith among themselves. And if the youth will not come in forefront, as you rightly said, in the politics, the policies, the technology-based policies cannot be developed because the technology which has been developed recently in a few years can be understood by youth far better than the older persons like me and Dr. Patnaik. So until unless youth will not come actively in the politics, which you said, and vote for them, for the youth, instead of voting for a older generation people, the change will not be easily come. So I think, again, the onus is on the youth. If you people want that good governance should come, if you people feel that youth should come more in policy making, then youth have to come forward and go give that vote to the youth candidates, and the youth should be more actively in the politics. Thank you very much, Mr. Anvit, for giving your views. I'm sure the youths will definitely be encouraged by your views, and they will also see how a person can change if he have that will to do something for the country. Thank you very much, Mr. Anvit. Now, I would like to invite my next guest, and he is Mr. Jitin Joseph. Mr. Jitin Joseph is doing MA in English and literature at Al Azhar College of Arts and Science, Todopuja, affiliated to MG University. Mr. Jitin Joseph, you are there? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jitin Joseph, you have heard our chief guest, Dr. Patnaik, and the earlier youth guest. And all the emphasis is that youth has to come forward. Our chief guest, Dr. Patnaik, has said, until unless youth will not come forward, take the responsibility, that development of the country will be in the dreams. And although both earlier guests said that they are ready to do, they have lots of things, whether they are going to do or not, that is a separate thing. But their views are very much about that youth should participate actively in the rural development. Now, we would like to know from you the role of youth in rural development. Mr. Jitin Joseph, please.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Lal Goel, sir, for this wonderful opportunity given for me. And I'm happy to be a part of this. Today, from my point of view, I should quote Mr. Brian Tracy. He has said that you are the architect of your own destiny. That means we should work for our destiny. And I will stick on to Dr. Patnaik. He said that the youth should be skilled. I'm from the rural area of Kerala, and here, from my own experience, I should say that I'm very sorry to say that the youth over here are just depending on the textbook experience. They are not being skilled. For them, education means to study, to learn by heart, and to write it on the papers. But they are not thinking about how can we do, what can we do. They are not thinking about it. And no one from the elders or the experienced one are not trying to change the thinking pattern. The youth are always taught, you should learn this, you should write this, you should score marks, then only you can get a job. You should always prepare for a white collar job, and you should get a high salary. And that's for the betterment of your life. For me, it's not that fair. And over here, a group of youth, have organized a program, a team named Vadi Vilakku. Our aim is to work for the youth. We are planning to start a new program that will develop and that will execute many programs that will help the youth to learn how to live in this present situation, how to live, not to learn, and that will be given on the basis of edutainment, education through entertainment. And that will be helpful for the youth. And we are planning, I'm saying my experience and my vision towards my program that will be helpful for who are listening me. We are planning to do for the betterment of the youth by giving training on different fields like farming, agriculture, and other industrial trainings also. There we have 12 members in the core team, and we are headed by our team leader. He is now working in a private bank, and he is the branch manager of that bank, and he has a vision for the youth. And sorry,
yeah, please go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Okay, fine. And we are planning to go on with the old generation. We should go on with them. We should get the ideas from them, but it should not be implemented on their point of view, but it should be implemented from the point of view of the youth. Then only we can move. I hear that the youth over here said that the rural area should be given importance for the farming and all. But agriculture and farming is possible for all. In our state, Kerala, we can see that the people over in a small places also, they are cultivating for the vegetables for them. And we can implement this for the youth. And youth should be given an opportunity, and they should be taught that you should and you have to practice agriculture for your better health. And you should prepare your own food. You should get what you need. You should explain what is yours mind, what is you expecting from this world. And you should not hold on with the ideas which are placed in front of you. Here we are living in the society where we have the support of social medias, and we have campaigns for youth development. And while I look on these days newspapers, I saw that here the village council election has over, and a 21-year-old girl has become elected as the leader of the village council in Kerala. That was the wonderful experience I found in my 23 ages of life. She has came to the leadership. Why the other youth are not trying to come to the leadership? Why all are going back? That we should think of that. That's what needed. The brain should work. Our brain should be working for the betterment of the nation and for us. If we think, the nation will think. That's the finest point I would like to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jitin, and congratulations to you for starting the youth skill training without any depending on the government or anybody, that you have made your own thing. But I would like to say a few things about the skill training. When we talk about the skill training or skilled people in India, we must understand the current data suggests that only 2.3% of the workforce in India has undergone formal skill training, as compared to 68% in UK, 75% in Germany, 52% in USA, 80% in Japan, and 96% in South Korea. And today, as our chief guest has mentioned very clearly about the employability, why there is no, why the job and unemployment is there? Because as per a survey, 80% of the students are unemployable. They are not employable. Out of those 20%, the company, once the survey is taken, one industry, those who have taken them, only 6% to be continued after their training. It means you can understand in a country like this, if so much unemployability because they are not skill trained. But yes, what action you have taken is really appreciable, and I'm sure other youths will also follow, and without waiting for the skill training from the government, they can be trained among themselves. The senior will train to the junior, and the junior will so on. So thank you very much, Mr. Jatin Joseph, for giving your views. Now I would like to invite my next youth guest, and he is Mr. Joel Joseph. Mr. Joel Joseph is pursuing MSc Criminology and Forensic Science in School of Social Work, Roshni Nyalaya, Mangalore. Mr. Joel Joseph, you have heard our chief guest, Dr. Patnaik, and earlier guest. And there, everybody is having emphasis on the youth to participate actively in the for the rural development. And all the three earlier one have mentioned either they are committed to do this, and one of the earlier participant has mentioned, the guest has said that he is already doing it. Now we would like to know from you the role of youth in rural development. Mr. Joel Joseph, please.
Oh, good morning to all. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Lal Goel for giving me this opportunity. So coming to the topic, the role of the youth in the rural development. So in the case, the role of youth in rural development is like a farmer, like how farmer is to his field. Without the farmer, the field cannot be developed. Likewise, even the youth has a major role in developing the rural areas. So they has the power to develop. But in my opinion, in these days, youth doesn't know like certain importance about the rural areas and the development. Like they don't know most things, like agriculture. What is agriculture? Like how is agriculture done? Like what do we are having in our daily life? The food we are having is coming from a rural area, like developed in using the agriculture. So certain things the youth doesn't know. So first of all, the youth should be you should be engaged in like given a skill of like what is happening, like the progress in like agriculture, the rural development, rural things happening in rural area. They doesn't have any exposure. Like many of my friends didn't had like doesn't know what is like how is the cultivation done, how is the crop cultivated, how is yield, what is harvesting. Doesn't know. We had a personal experience. They had seen it when they had visited for a rural exposure. So in my opinion, they should be all the youth should be visiting the rural areas, like to know better, to know the betterment of the youth, the rural areas. From that, they can develop the rural areas. One thing is that, and in the case like when coming to politics, even youth has to be actively participate, like the other participants said. Even youth, like older generation, some people doesn't know what all development. Youth has many ideas, so they can contribute to lot to that for the rural development when it comes to the politics. In the case of education, there are the rural areas are facing many problems for like illiteracy, unemployment, lack of education, lot of other problems. So that all is taken by the urban. In urban areas, they are getting it easily, but while coming to rural areas, they face many difficulties in getting a proper education, a job, and in many financial crises. So in my opinion, even from the youth from the urban areas can go to the rural areas to give a better education to the not only the youths in the rural areas, even the elderly people. Even they are not educated, they doesn't know many things, how to take. There are many schemes which government provide, but they do, so many people, in my opinion, when I visited my one of the rural areas, they said didn't know how to get that schemes, how to approach the government, how to approach it. So the youth should educate them in getting that such things, and you should be and such things, and so that there will be better development in the rural areas. And one more, like in urban areas, everything is get in a hand, like you can get within the seconds. Everything is like developed in the area. Such things, even it should be given to the such infrastructure should be given to the rural areas also, because both should be considered in the equal way, not like this is urban area and this is rural area. Only these things should be given to urban areas. So in my opinion, that's one of the major part the youth should take to in their decision, that even whatever they get from the urban areas, it should be passed to the rural areas. That will be so there will be a equality among the youth, urban and areas. So youth should be taught that. And as a step, I have already taken this part. I'm visiting. I have a place in my one of the rural area. There's a place called Beltangadi. So I have a plantation there. I already started some agricultural activities there, and I'm learning so many things from the rural areas, which is not there in urban areas. So in my opinion, to conclude, every youth should participate in the development of urban areas, the rural areas. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Mr. Joel Joseph. And yes, you are also doing a very good work if you are participating in agriculture or something which is going to be benefiting the rural area. But one point which you have made about that the urban youth is not aware what is harvest, what is the conditions, how the crops were produced, etc. I think the fault lies with the youth, not with the older generation. Today, the technology is so advanced. You are sitting at your place, you can watch everything on your mobile. And if you cannot understand how the things can be done in a rural area, I think it is not correct. It is because youth are more interested where they can see some celebrities or something urban-centric. That is, the mindset has to be changed. If some programs is to be developed or some apps have been to be developed, how to do everything, I'm sure everyone, like in pandemic, almost everyone has become very good cook, very good chef. because of this technology. Similarly, if youth will decide, okay, how the wheat to be grown or the rice is to, if you all will decide that we will be doing like this, it can change. You need not to go to the rural area even. All virtual tours can enlighten if the enlightenment has to be done. And then those policies can be changed, because if you know what are the problems which you can see sitting at your room only, I think that will be a real change. But I'm sure that one of you will definitely come out with these ideas and more ideas. I am not of your generation, so I can give, as you said, that older generation is not knowing what the new generation knows. Yes, we accept that the technology-wise, you are far advanced than our generation. But you please use that technology for the real work, not for spreading the jokes or the fake news, but for the real things for which the technology is to be used. Thank you very much, Mr. Joel Joseph, for giving your views. I'm sure that your views will definitely enlighten many of our youth viewers. Now, I would like to invite my next youth guest, and she is Miss Maria Vincent. Miss Maria is an assistant professor in English at Al-Hajar College of Arts and Science. Miss Maria, you have heard our chief guest, Dr. Patnaik, as well as earlier guest. And Dr. Patnaik has mentioned very clearly that unless the rural areas are not developed, just to think that the country can develop is not possible. And he has also mentioned that although the government is trying their best to give the schemes to the rural area, but when the youth of rural area is not interested, as well as urban area, definitely we can say they are not interested, but even the youth of rural area is not interested, then how those policies can be implemented. And our chief guest has also mentioned that we should not depend on the government only. We must come forward. And our earlier guest has also spoken about this. Now, we would like to know from you the role of youth in rural development. Miss Maria Vincent, please.
Okay, sir, am I audible?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Good morning, all. So glad to have this opportunity, and special appreciation to Lal Goel, sir, Paul, sir, and for the inspiring words of Dr. Santosh Kumar, sir. Thank you so much. So let's talk about youth and rural development. Talking about youth, the youth in its whole form is powerful, and they are more onto the contributing side apart from the population of other age groups. They are able to implement progressive thoughts by others, as well as to support other startup organizations in society for a better tomorrow. So what stands as a positive side is always their modern era knowledge and ability to mold and shape themselves as per the changes around. So they are willing to expose themselves and take a risk, even if it's for the personal development or societal development. They move forward with a flexible skill acquisition attitude. So youth is like a tabula rasa, ready to impart and scribble new experiences and innovative ideas. And that's our true benefit for the development of the society, and particularly the rural society. So the question is, why isn't there much contributions in rural areas as compared to urban areas? Why is youth concentrated in urban areas than rural areas? And we all know the answer to. It's because of the possibilities, infrastructure, salary scale, job opportunities, and even lifestyle that urban areas attract. Here, with the help of youth and their innovative and creative coordination, changes are made and can be made further to call it as a rural development. So, opportunities in the rural areas are the primary focus to attract development. For example, like the implementation of a small-scale branch of urban business with attractive benefits in rural areas. And another interesting fact is that youth can subtly contribute to the development of rural areas by evoking and instilling power and opportunity for the elderly population who are capable of working hard. There's a mass cultivation and mass production can be resulted. So the idea of development lies in the youth and is supported by the elderly. Another factor is to explore the less explored population of youth, like the uneducated and underprivileged category of youth. It is another effective way to pave a field of development. As I already mentioned about the educated youth migration, it is relevant to speak about the non-migrating and unused youth. They can be utilized in better ways through proper skill development, participatory and preparatory sessions. So there happens to be youth-to-youth development function, which results in rural development. Here, the female population of rural areas too counts. The developments we propose and visualize in our minds are all possible with the true intervention of government. So just like, let's take for an example, I am going to create a startup business in a rural area with much of my creative ideas. And what I lack here is the proper security system and financial support. And the question, what if I fail with a massive depravity? So my risk increased and my interest decreased. This is what is happening most of the time. Government contributions like incentives and subsidies can definitely make a massive change. Special programs, schemes, tax relaxation, and compensation plans, and extra business benefits definitely attract youth to rural experiments. So self-employment of youth will lead to better rural development. But my claims doesn't suggest that they aren't producing effective and meaningful sources for the development of rural society now. They are obviously doing their part and can be accelerated further is the point I would like to stress. Just for an example, when an issue, corruption or violation of justice happens in an urban site, we know it within a flash of time. But that wasn't the case of rural areas before a few years. But now just take up the Facebook, Instagram post and you get to know it all. This involvement is strongly the effective hands of youth. This is in fact an example of how youth is contributing to the development of rural areas. So here, youth is capable of revolution, protest against corruption, and to obviously bring forward change. And as a result, development too. Let the corruption be uprooted and development shall follow. So what we must look forward is to the involvement of positive mindset and abolishing of this orthodoxy tradition, which does not make any sense sometimes. So that the youth, which is productive and capable of innovations, acquire a space to express and begin something new. And it's not that the youth startups and organizations hasn't formed yet. Yes, obviously, we have a lot of startups and developing firms like Garda, startup in Ahmedabad, which was formed in 2009. It's a platform to sell traditional Indian handicrafts. And Saksham program of 2010. And Chikitsa of 2014, a healthcare solution to rural population. And if you're looking onto the politics, as Jitin Joseph said earlier, the current mayor in Trivandrum, Kerala, is a 21-year-old Arya Rajendran, the youngest mayor. So youth is rising to every single field and future of progress and development can foreseen here. So coming back to the point of rural development, rural areas has its pearls like agriculture, farming, fishing, greenery, which can be utilized in better ways, particularly, I mean, profitable ways. Youth can bring innovation in that sector with support of government. New business schemes centering tourism that shouldn't hinder the agricultural production can be implemented. Because see, for example, the urban population chooses the rural sites for leisure and relaxation, right? So what makes this possible is definitely the physical connectivity and digital connectivity. So the connection between urban and rural site and the reliable roads, transportation enables the development to flow to the rural sites too. So development in infrastructure and in all fields like community, business, economics, financial, medical, education sectors are all advancing, still moving and developing, but the pace of the development can be accelerated by the youth. So let me finish my view by the quote by Swami Vivekananda. My hope for future lies in youth of character, intelligent, renouncing all for the services of others and obedient, good to themselves and country at large. So I hope that after 50 years, there won't be such discussions on how to develop rural areas because it's already developed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Maria. I will just say one thing. You have asked for the government intervention, providing the financial aids in the rural area. Have you heard the name of a cooperative called Amul? Yes, this is the model. If youth today, when we have a success story, not from today, for so many years, which is a success story not for India or the world, how the villagers have come forward and done the white revolution in India. When we can do, why not the youth can do today? Why you wait for the loans or the financial assistance from the government? Make a cooperative society among youth, fund it, and see to it that those funds can be implemented properly. So no corruption, nothing. You can do it. Thank you very much, Ms. Maria, for giving your views. Now I would like to go, and one more thing before I will, the mayor of Trivandrum, that's 21 years, she is being elected because of the default, because those senior politicians lost the elections. That's why. Otherwise, she was not the first choice. Just to inform you, that is the lacking of our youth power. You must come forward that you should be the first choice, not the last choice. Thank you very much, Ms. Maria, for giving your views. Now, I would like to invite my next youth guest, and she is Ms. Nevni V. Jamal. Ms. Nevni V. Jamal is from Kottayam, Kerala. She is lecturer in English at Al Azhar College of Arts and Science, Todojur Puja. Ms. Jamal, please. Ms. Jamal, you have heard our chief guest and all earlier guests. So now we want from you the role of youth in rural development. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute. Yes, please go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Hi, thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my views and ideas on the topic, the role of youth in rural development. So, hi, good morning all. First of all, let me say that youth has a pertinent role in all the spheres. Youth is creative, innovative, dynamic, and productive. If nurtured and nourished, the youth can become the asset for any nation. So, I am repeating the idea, if nurtured and nourished. So, unfortunately, as many of my friends here have told, most of the youth are now wandering here and there, and they are before modernization and urbanization, and they are not sufficiently nurtured and nourished. Nourished in the sense, I mean, they have to be given much training and education, like value-based education and so on. What they have to do, they are not to be trained to become white-collar scholars, or they are not to be trained to become to go abroad to work for the United Nations and so on. They have to work for India. They have to work for the development of India. And from ancient times, we come across the saying, youth is the foundation of a society, the strength of the state, the treasure of the world, and moreover, a promise for tomorrow. Thus, we could say that the role of youth is inevitable and ineludible anywhere. So today, let me speak in particular the role of youth in the development of the rural. Rural development is something that needs to be focused upon for the overall progress of the country. And by the term development, I mean the growth in its whole. So, to be developed, we need educational institutions, hospitals, markets, good housing and sanitation facilities, and so on. Every citizen dream of a developed country, and development is incomplete if the rural areas are underdeveloped. I too come from a village area, but now I cannot call it a village as we have schools, colleges, banks, hospitals, and many more facilities. So now I'll call it a developed village. So here we should have more such developed villages. And when we talk about rural development, we cannot exclude the notion of agricultural development, as agriculture is of extreme importance and it is one that decides the livelihood and the living conditions of the rural people. Now, what is the role of youth here? The idea of youth itself is to renew, refresh, and maintain. They are innovative so that they can find out thousands and thousands of strategies that are needed to be adopted for the development. And they are productive so that they can put into use these strategies. The vibrant and powerful youth make maximum effort to satisfy the needs of the other vulnerables. And so now let me speak about the contributions from the part of the youth. The youth nowadays summons meetings and discusses their ideas with the fellow beings. When the information is shared and discussed, their togetherness contributes to the strength of their decision. Thus, they take initiatives with the power of shared knowledge. And the decision-making capacity of the youth is quite appreciable. And there are certain sectors and areas that demand the role of youth. As I've already told you, agriculture is the most significant occupation of the rural people. So for its development, it requires extensive research, utilization of science and technology, implementation of modern facilities, etc. As youth is educated, they could help the rural for putting into practice the advanced technologies for the development of the agriculture sector. Besides agriculture, the rural people set up small-scale industries which offer jobs to a large number of poor people, including women. Here, the youth can provide trainings to the uneducated old people of the village so that they can achieve good skills in the area where they work. Sometimes, when new machines are introduced into the village, either for agriculture or for other small scale industries, the old generation of the village will be ignorant of its functioning and operations. Here, too, the youth can transform the untutored villages into skilled laborers. The latest surveys suggest that the youth actively takes part in the development of rural areas. They engage themselves in the agricultural activities like distribution of seeds, materials, water, fertilizers, insecticides, and they even participate in cropping and harvesting. Villages need to be cleaned and sanitized so as to lead a healthy life. Here too, youth plays a vital role. They participate in cleaning activities and conduct camps in order to give awareness to the people on the necessity of maintaining hygiene. Here too, we have so many programs um, like
Please be
conduct.
brief. Please be brief.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So let me conclude my words by saying that there are certain impediments in the participation of youth, like lack of facilities like education, malnutrition, exclusion from the society, and so on. So let us give good opportunities for the youth to participate in the well-being of the whole world, not only for the rural development, but for the whole development of the world, of the nation. So let me conclude my words with loads and loads of hopes for achieving a completely developed nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jamal. Now, I would like to invite my last youth guest, and he is Vernon D. Costa. Vernon D. Costa is a student in 11th standard at Lutz Central School, Mangalore. Mr. Vernon D. Costa, please unmute. Yeah, please go ahead.
A very good morning to you all. And I thank Mr. Goel especially for this opportunity and Dr. Patnaik for reflecting his thoughts on this very important matter, that is the role of youth in rural development. A change comes from the within, the core and the heart. That within, the core and the heart of our country is our rural sector. The development of the rural sector is potentially equal to the development of India. Around 65 to 72% of our population of our country thrives in the rural sector. If our youth, if these enthusiastic arts look forward for the development of these places, then there will be a day that India will be called a developed country. There is a gap between people, those who have access to education and to specialization in skills, and to those who don't. There is a gap between rural areas and urban areas. It's my personal belief, sir, that the development should not be categorized as rural development and urban development. Though some might not agree with me, but this development should come under one banner. That bridge, that gap should be bridged. And though it will be a challenge, but we need to overcome that. Now, how can our youth participate in rural development? Number one, there are various ways though, but I limelight 4 ways. Number one, which is the most important in decision making. We can decide, the youth should decide for the policies and the projects of a particular rural area. Second of all, initiation. We need to initiate a revolution in their respective villages. Not all. From one village at a time can make a huge difference. Then third of all, we can consult. The youth should be consulted for their mind-blowing ideas and suggestions. And the fourth of all, we can look forward for information sharing through various social media networks. And if we do all this, we will succeed in having the villages develop. But one thing, agriculture. India being an agrarian country, without the development of agriculture, we cannot think about the development of our rural areas, nor we can think about the development of India. Agriculture, development in agriculture is must. I see many youth these days refraining from agriculture. They find agriculture unattractive. They find agriculture bitter because of the lack of innovative ideas, because of the lack of knowledge, and because of the lack of higher yield. If we use our technology, if we use all the resources we have in a right and a very organized manner, we will get the higher yield, and we need to develop in irrigation so that we have higher yield and so that agriculture is developed along with other sectors. And the second of all, we need to promote small scale industries because there are a lot of artisans, there are a lot of handcraftsmen who are really specialized in manufacturing and producing in the rural areas. These are specialized artists, and if we promote, they want their business to be promoted, they want their industry to be promoted. And if the youth come together, unite together, and marketize these branches, these small-scale industrial holders, then surely the small-scale industries will be of a great help in developing rural areas. Then, third of all, education. Education is a vital element. Education is an element when you look forward in any sector, in any field for development and progress. We need to build up a right infrastructural setup of education, and we need to focus on skill-based education and job-oriented courses.
Please be brief.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So the fourth of all, skill development. Skill development is must, as Dr. Patnaik mentioned, that only 12% of the youth are giving themselves for vocational trainings, are giving themselves for skill development programs. Many youth should come forward and develop and expertise in their skills. And I just want to end by saying that rural areas are the wealth of our country. And if all the youth come together, if we use our policies and our projects in an organized manner, if we think out of the box, there will not be any day that there will be a day that India will be called a developed country. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vernon, for giving your views. Now, we would like to go and invite our chief guest, Dr. Patnaik, for giving the concluding remarks. Dr. Patnaik, please. Please unmute.
So, how much time are you giving, Mr. Goel?
5 minutes, please. Not more minutes. Yeah.
Okay, then let me first compliment all the 7 of the youth participants, the youth guests, Akriti, Anvit, Jitin, Joel, Maria, Naino, Vernon. You have remarkably done quite well in articulating your views. I've taken note of it, but because of the shortage of time, I will not be able to summarize it in a cohesive manner. But let me tell you, each one of you have got ideas. Each one of you have got innovative ideas. Now these innovative ideas are to be translated into actions. Now sitting in the ivory towers, in your urban centers, urban-centric ivory towers, and thinking about rural development cannot be a reality. What many of you have already expressed your view, you need to connect to the rural area, particularly to the rural youth, to empower them. At the same time, you must also think that the government is meant to create the infrastructure facility that government is trying to do. But information sharing is the key role that you should take up. Youth should take it up in a very big way. Now, in the with the social media platform getting so active, and youth are taking the lead role in the social media activities, it is high time that youth should try to integrate with the rural youth, and that should be the first, the clarion call for the youth of the nation to connect. And as Vernon has rightly said, there should not be a concept of, say, rural development or urban development. It should be an integrated development. Rural youths to become part of the urban activities, or urban youth become part of the rural activity. That should be our motto and the approach. And the next thing which I'd like to say, that youth have got a very big role to play in the decision making of the government. The policy level decision making of the government. Nowadays, you must have heard the type of farmer, the gravity of the farmer agitation which is happening all over the country. Nothing to comment at this stage, but yes, as a youth power, you should come forward and find out how to influence the government's policy decision through social media platforms, through one voice, so that government is also compelled to go for a conscious decision for the development of the country. Now, with this, let me quote one thing which our Swami Vivekananda has said: youth is the best time. The way in which you utilize this period will decide the nature of coming years that lie ahead of you. And my last thing, which I get so much impressed with the the presidential speech, the maiden presidential speech of John F. Kennedy, when he has said, "Ask not what the country can do for you, ask what you can do for the country." And with this parting words, let me compliment each one of you for making this decision so lively. And I'm sure all those who are listening to this youth must take a point or two and try to be part of this youth movement for making India a developed nation. Thank you, Mr. Goel.
Thank you very much, Dr. Patnaik. And today's program was very lively because we have received many messages. Continuously messages are coming, but because of the paucity of time, we can't read those messages, but they are very encouraging messages. And that's why the GYAN, which is a global youth activity network, has decided to increase the frequency. Right now, we are doing once a week. Now we are doing it for twice a week, the youth program. And our next program will be on 31st of December, as well as on the 1st of January, which will be dedicated and run by the youth only. The 31st will be the Goodbye 2020, and the 1st January, the topic will be the New Year resolutions. And today's program, which was very enlightening, and I'm sure all the youths who has participated, they have given their very strong views. And Dr. Patnaik, as usual, a person who is always advocating about the rural development, he has given the guidance. I'm sure our all youths has been enriched by his experience and knowledge. Even if you want to be connected with Dr. Patnaik, he is ready to give you the guidance, his expertise. You can very well connect. You can either contact the Global TV or to me. I will send you his contacts, or to him your contacts. So then you can see to it that something can be done for the betterment of the rural development. Thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, Newsgaon se Samvad Sarokar News, as well as it was shown live on YouTube and Facebook. And our endeavor is to bring every day a new topic. And tomorrow our topic is media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. What new this year? And our panelists are Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, one-man expert, Commission on Labor, Government of India; Dr. Mukesh Sharma, former Director General, Films Division of India and Additional Director, Doordarshan, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting; Mr. Niloli P. Rajshekharan, writer, music composer and CEO, Guru Management Consultants, Bengaluru; as well as Dr. Sanjana Jones, social and animal activist, international fashion and youth icon, Florida, USA. So please tune in tomorrow for media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much, Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik, for joining us.